The humans had painted their warship black, not navy blue, not the reflective shimmer of mercury-scale alloys, flat, lightless black. It hung in the void above Keshel-4's moon like a jagged scar, wrong against the starlight. Aesthetic intimidation, I scoffed, letting the translator lazily morph my contempt into formal diplomatic register. Unknown vessel has not replied to hails, muttered my helmsman, SCI, 6 limbs hovering uncertainly above the interface. Energy signatures, minimal, but focused. I rolled my inner eye. So, another scavenger hulk. Terrans lack the finesse for power modulation. Bring us into orbit. We broke plane over the equator. Keshel-4's atmosphere fizzed below like bruised glass, residual fires still raging from the Vaeran bombardment. Our mission: confirm human casualties, ideally total, retrieve survivors, statistical anomaly, and file a closure statement to the Galactic Union by cycle's end. Instead, the black ship aligned its bow. "No ID transponder," SCI rasped. "But its array just reconfigured. It's tracking us." A primitive flex, I thought. Predictable. Let them posture. They know Union law. A beam lanced across our dorsal shield. Not a warning shot. Not even overcharged. A clean hit, precisely between our forward EM veins. Silent. Surgical. "Shields holding," SCI said. "But recalibrating. I've never seen modulation like that. Rotating bands. It's guessing our frequency pattern. Impossible. That takes 3 minutes of telemetry at minimum. Sir, they took 10 seconds. The ship spoke then. No visuals. Just a voice. Crisp, neutral, with that odd Terran dryness. "Unidentified diplomatic vessel, you've entered restricted orbit. Vacate within 1 minute or be boarded. We have 0 tolerance for flyovers." I opened the comm. "This is Ambassador Kethril of the Kelsec Accord, under Galactic Union Charter. You are in violation of ceasefire parameters." Silence. Then, 60 seconds. "Scan them. I want to know what sort of back-alley retrofit." "Sir," SCI whispered, "they're generating no engine heat, no drive plume. I think they're using passive orbital drift, manual correction via microburst retrothrusters. And the hull, it's absorbing LIDAR." I stared at the silhouette. Not just black. Invisible. Intentionally quiet. Apex predators didn't need to roar. The minute passed. Their ship didn't fire. Instead, it launched a pod. Not a missile. A boarding capsule. Sleek. Compact. A Terran-made projectile shaped like a negotiation. "Shields up!" I barked. Too late. The pod phased through like the shields weren't there. Not a glitch. Not brute force. Code spoofing. They'd guessed our handshake protocols in under a minute. The pod clanked onto our mid-deck. Internal alarms bloomed. Atmospheric seal intact. Movement inside. I looked at SCI. "Contact the Union," I muttered, "and record everything." The doors hissed open. Out stepped 2 Terrans in tailored black suits. Not armored, not armed, just suits. The taller one adjusted his cufflink and said, "We're here to discuss your immediate departure and long-term misunderstanding of sovereignty." He smiled like a blade being sheathed. "We brought coffee," the shorter one said, offering a thermos like a peace offering at a wake. Our guards, armed, armored, and genetically reinforced, hesitated. I could almost hear the subroutines failing to assign a threat category. These weren't soldiers. They didn't even move like combatants. But somehow, the air bent around them, predators pretending to be men. "You hacked a Kelsec diplomatic cruiser," I said, teeth tight. "That's an act of war." The tall one shrugged. "Or a response to one. You entered a dead zone uninvited. We secured it. You wandered into our fence line. This isn't a ranch, Terran." "It is now," I signaled SCI. Quietly. He began uplinking our emergency drone to the Union relay. Time-delayed packets, 3-second intervals, staggered. If this meeting went kinetic, someone would know what killed us. The Terran gestured to a holotable. We hadn't invited them to sit, yet they made themselves at home. "Let's clarify. Keshel-4 was under Vaeran assault for 3 days. You watched. We intervened. Minimal loss of civilian life. Then your ship showed up late, flying colors of a council that voted neutral. You're in violation of Article 8. "We rewrote Article 8, he cut in. That stopped me. SCI blinked, whispering through subchannel. "Sir, Galactic Law Update, 30 minutes ago. Emergency session. Terran delegation proposed Clause 90. Sovereignty supersedes observation during open genocide. It passed. How? I hissed. 3,000 to 48, majority swing. They outvoted us, the short one said. We're very persuasive lately. Tech beat. I stared at the update logs. The proposal had been digitally queued before the Varens even launched their offensive. Predictive diplomacy? Or had humans baited the attack? The tall one tapped the table. A projection bloomed. Keshel Fort's orbit, then the system, then 7 more colonized planets marked in red. We're annexing the line, defensive perimeter. If the Accord disagrees, we suggest you send someone more convincing next time. Their ship outside had begun to pivot. I noticed now the microthrusters adjusting in near silence, maintaining orbital lock even as it scanned us. One wrong move, and we'd become a case study in overconfidence. You manipulated the Union, orchestrated a pretext. This was engineered. The tall one leaned in. We don't orchestrate, we predict, and when things go wrong, we improvise faster than anyone else. He stood. We'll be on the bridge. Don't make us escort you out. They left. I exhaled, slow. What are they? SCI didn't answer immediately. His usual twitching limbs were still. Then, Sir, their ship just rekeyed our encryption. We've been locked out of our own command codes. Outside, the Terran vessel's transponder finally activated. One word. They played chess, not metaphorically, on my bridge, with a real board they'd brought with them. The tall one, his name I'd learned was Dawson, moved a night and glanced up like this insult to dignity was routine. We assumed you'd need time to confirm the Union's vote. While you're processing that, want a game? I waved a tendril dismissively. You treat diplomacy like a tavern game. Only when we're winning. Behind me, SCI cycled through bypass protocols, trying to reclaim helm authority. The bridge lights flickered every 30 seconds. Another Terran pressure tactic. Reminders of control. I've filed a protest with the High Council, I said. You're occupying neutral space. You're still thinking like it's neutral. It's not. It's ours now. It became Terran territory the moment we chose to stay. Dawson made another move. Check. SCI whispered. Sir, their encryption is decentralized. No central key. It learns as we probe it. It's an adaptive mesh. I think it's human brain pattern coded. You're saying the ship thinks like him? I pointed at Dawson. No, sir. I'm saying it thinks like all of them. I turned back to the board. The short one, Mira, was smirking. We've done this before, you know. 100 systems. Same tone, same threats, same look of disbelief. She leaned forward. But no one's ever asked why we do it. I didn't answer. Diplomats don't ask predators why they bite. Dawson stood. You think we came here to conquer. Truth is, we don't need to. We just wear suits, smile, and occupy. You brought fleets, we brought signatures. A console beeped. SCI paled. Sir, he said slowly, the Union just recognized the Terran claim. Automatic acknowledgement protocol, triggered by local compliance threshold. We're the local threshold, I whispered. Our ship's presence validated them. Mira nodded. Thanks for the support. Midpoint shift. I felt it then. The trap. Not just political. Tactical. The humans hadn't simply bent the rules, they'd weaponized the bureaucracy we built. And now they were reinforcing. Multiple warp trails inbound, SCI said. Small Terran crafts, civilian hulls, freighters, but they're entering with encrypted approach vectors, coordinated. Dawson walked toward the viewport, hands in pockets. Colonists, he said. The moment we hold orbit, they hold ground. How many? I asked. Enough. They were seeding the system. This wasn't conquest. This was colonization at hypersonic speed. SCI added one last whisper. They've sealed our access logs. If we don't get out, we can't prove any of this. Dawson turned back one last time. His smile was gone. You have 5 minutes to undock. 5 minutes, Dawson had said. We stayed for 6, not out of defiance, because our upload wasn't complete. SCI's limbs fluttered like a dying bird's heartbeat, decrypting the last cache of command logs. If we could extract video of the Terrans bypassing our shields, of them rewriting our access in real time, Maybe, just maybe, the Union would see past the vote and demand a rollback. "Final packet ready," he whispered. "Sending, now." The console blinked red. "Transmission blocked," he added, voice flat. "They've jammed the outbound relay. Not broadband, targeted. They're filtering only our data feeds." I didn't speak. There was nothing to say. The Terrans had learned exactly which packets mattered. Dawson stepped back onto the bridge, hands behind his back like some military academy instructor in a soft-shell suit. "You stayed." He didn't sound angry. He sounded mildly impressed. "Our upload was incomplete," he finished. "We saw it. You're not the first envoy to try that." I stared at him. "You intercepted internal comms?" "We intercepted everything the moment your hull crossed the orbit line. Honestly, you should update your firewall software." My hands clenched behind my back. I kept my tone formal. "This is a violation of at least 4 sovereignty doctrines." He smiled again. "Let's call it hands-on diplomacy." Tech beat. SCI managed to backdoor one internal process, the ship's internal inertia control, a dangerous trick. With a single pulse, we could jerk the vessel sideways, maybe throw the Terrans off balance, but it would endanger the whole crew. I hesitated. Dawson caught my pause. "We planned for that too," he said. "If you pulse, your own core goes unstable. Your model was discontinued 6 cycles ago." He knew our schematics. He knew everything. "We will file a grievance," I said. "You'll face a tribunal." "No, we won't." And then he showed me the video. A Union admiral, human by species, reading from a prepared script. Effective immediately, the Galactic Union recognizes the Keshel Corridor as an autonomous Terran protectorate under Emergency Stabilization Authority. Timestamp, 1 hour ago. Vote margin, 4,000 to 81. My limbs went cold. "That's not stabilizing," I whispered. "That's annexation." Dawson leaned forward. "You're mistaking conquest for conviction." Midpoint shift, I saw it clearly now. They'd done this before, not with battles, with votes. They infected systems, through trade, through infrastructure, through permanent presence. By the time anyone noticed, they weren't visitors. They were residents. And now the first wave of colonists was landing. Freighters dropping modules, not soldiers, engineers, doctors, teachers. They didn't bring guns, they brought permanence. "Prepare for disengagement," I ordered. Dawson gave a short nod, satisfied. "We'll walk you to the airlock." It sounded polite, but it wasn't a request. As we walked the corridor, Mira finally spoke. "You think this ends at Keshel?" I didn't answer, but the truth was loud in my silence. "No, it begins here." The stars blurred. We burned hard out of Keshel orbit, silent and humiliated. Our long-range comms had been restored the moment we crossed the boundary, another insult. They let us talk only once it no longer mattered. SCI sat slumped at his console, vocal tendrils limp. I couldn't even save 1 frame of their override. It was clean, preemptive. "It's done," I said. But it wasn't. The upload block, the jamming, the vote, the colonists, the coffee, it was all too smooth, too practiced, as if they'd rehearsed this exact play 100 times. We reached the orbital buoy of Trelos Station 3 standard hours later, a mid-tier relay point, neutral ground, and the next scheduled summit for diplomatic updates. I expected mild concern, quiet disapproval. What I found was worse. "I read your report," Ambassador Tren of the Quarix said. "Terrans overstepped, but it was legal." "Barely legal. They altered the interpretation. They followed protocol. They rewrote the protocol," I snapped. He didn't flinch. "And got the votes. That is the protocol now." Around us, envoys from 16 species watched me like I'd shouted in a temple. Whispers in 14 dialects. Disappointment, pity, one even smirked. Midpoint shift. I realized then, we weren't just outmaneuvered by the Terrans, we were isolated. The others had seen this before, and said nothing. "They've done this to your systems too," I said aloud. None answered, but none denied it. SCI pulsed me privately. "We're receiving a signal. Encrypted, Terran origin, source, shadow node inside Trelos net." "They're taunting us now?" "No, sir, it's a warning." He displayed the message. Text only, short, One phrase. Next, Caden Drift. I stared. The Caden Drift wasn't even a populated system. It was a fringe mining belt with a disputed claim. We had a monitoring post there, nothing more, but it bordered 6 other zones. Get me the Kelsec Council, I ordered. No response. Sir, SCI said slowly, they just downgraded our access. We've been marked as compromised envoys. It wasn't just that I'd lost SCI. Now I was contaminated, and Terrans had chosen their next target, before we could even draft our rebuttal. Cliffhanger. A message came from my own homeworld, not in protocol dialect. Personal, urgent. Do not return. You are under inquiry. Suspected compliance. I blinked. They thought I'd helped the Terrans. They erased me in 8 lines of code. That's all it took. 8 lines, inserted into the Union's Trust Protocol registry. My diplomatic credentials stripped. Access levels revoked. Every message I tried to send to Kelsec Command was bounced with the same reply. Invalid authorization. Compromised agent. I was no longer a voice, just an echo. Sir, SCI said carefully, if we don't respond to inquiry summons, we may be blacklisted from council sessions entirely. I stared at the viewport. Caden Drift, dust, rocks, dead stations, but close enough to matter. A silent place, just waiting to become loud. We're not going to Kelsec, I said. Set course for Caden. He hesitated. They said not to return. We aren't. We're intercepting. We jumped at flank speed, engines humming hard. No clearance, no sanction, just a disgraced envoy and a nervous helmsman hurtling toward the next chessboard. 3 hours into the run, we picked up movement. Warp signature, SCI said. Human configuration. Civilian freighter, but odd loadout. I squinted at the data. That's not a freighter. Look at the mass ratio. It's running empty. Why fake a cargo manifest? To hide intent. They want it to look like commerce. But that's a marker ship. They're laying claim. Sure enough, the vessel dropped a buoy. Just like before. One small black orb, broadcasting soft band pulses. Terran Protectorate survey claim, initiated. Tech beat. I scanned the buoy's specs. It wasn't just broadcasting. It was seeding local net space, embedding microalgorithms into unoccupied relay nodes. Given time, it would overwrite the Drift's navigational registry. Any ship entering later would be told this is Terran space. Without firing a shot, we hit the buoy with a disabling EMP shell. It crumpled in the void. Message intercepted from the Terran ship, SCI said. Short-range band. I opened it. A calm voice. Familiar. Dawson. Interfering again? Thought you'd be benched by now. I'm not done, I replied. You are. You just haven't realized it yet. Midpoint shift. Another signal spiked. A second ship warped in, same design as the first. Then a third, all unarmed, all civilian registry, but together they were forming a net, a territorial grid. They weren't waiting for approval this time. They were building the map as they moved. We have to warn the drift miners, I said. Already tried, SCI said. Terran signals are jamming local comms. Soft jamming doesn't block emergency signals, just delays them. I felt it again, that quiet horror. We'd prepared for invasions, not occupation by suggestion. Cliffhanger. Sir, SCI said, voice shaking, a Kelsec destroyer just entered the system. Relief surged, until he added, they're hailing the Terrans, not us. Channel open, SCI said, his voice carefully neutral. I nodded. The Kelsec destroyer's captain appeared on the display, a female of our kind, Officer General Tivek. I'd debated her once on post-war protocol. She'd called my assessments dramatic and implausible. Now she addressed Dawson first. Terran vessel, state your purpose. Survey and stabilization, Dawson replied smoothly. Registry filed under Union Clause 90. She hesitated less than 3 seconds. Acknowledged. You may proceed. I stepped into frame. Tivek, you recognize them? They injected foreign code into a neutral system. She looked at me like I was the virus. You're under internal review, Kethrel. Until cleared, you hold no authority here. I was there when they took Keshel. I watched them rewrite protocol in real time. And you failed to stop it. That's what the council sees. They made it legal after the fact? Then perhaps you should study law faster. She cut the channel. Tech beat. Our sensors picked up a Terran beacon activating near the asteroid clusters. Unlike before, it wasn't a sphere. It was a satellite array, 12 units, forming a rotating field. Each pulsed on a unique frequency, rotating every 6 seconds. SCI gaped. They're mimicking mining claim comms. Anyone who enters will read this as an established resource grid. They're faking a boomtown. Worse, the Kelsec destroyer wasn't stopping them. It was mapping the field. Coordinating, logging, making it official. Midpoint shift. I watched the destroyer's IFF signature change. Subtle, but unmistakable. "Shoddy," I said slowly. "Cross-check their software version." He blinked. "Sir, that's Terran firmware. Their entire IFF stack is running a human-authored patch." They'd done it. They hadn't just fooled our systems, they'd reprogrammed them. Kelsec ships now read Terran claims as valid, by design. We were already losing this system, and it hadn't even voted yet. "They're rewriting the galaxy," I whispered. "One protocol at a time." "Sir," SCI said, "incoming encrypted message. Terran origin, from Mira. You're welcome to watch, but not to interfere. You've seen how this ends." Cliffhanger. I pulled up the system map. A fourth Terran ship just dropped a new payload, not a beacon, a prefab diplomatic office. The Terran diplomatic module unfolded like a flower, 12 panels snapped open in perfect sync, forming a shielded dome on asteroid fragment Delta 3, a single blue flag, plain forgettable, deployed at its peak. SCI stared in disbelief. They've been pre-approved for consular presence. The registry's clean, fully certified. I checked the Union archives, approval timestamp 3 weeks ago. They'd filed for diplomatic access before landing Keschel, before the Vaerans attacked, before we even noticed the buildup. They weren't reacting. They were executing. A soft ping. "New comms," SCI muttered. "Multicast from the outpost." I patched in. A voice, this time neither Dawson nor Mira. A new Terran, female, crisp, confident. "To all vessels present, Terran Diplomatic Mission 471 formally invites observers to witness stabilization operations and planetary integration planning. Refreshments will be provided." I almost laughed. Then I saw the list of attendees. Not just neutral traders. 3 high-ranking Kelsec counselors. "They're here?" I said. "Already?" SCI nodded. "Docked on Station Caden 4. No public arrival logs, but they're on the guest list." Midpoint shift. I cross-referenced the counselors' previous votes. All 3 had opposed Clause 90 before Keschel. Now, their records showed reversal. Quiet. Unannounced. Their votes helped pass the post-annexation clauses. SCI's limbs twitched. "Sir, you think they were incentivized?" "Or replaced," I said flatly. We had no way of knowing which. I turned to the viewport. The Terran station now extended an antenna array, broadcasting a welcome signal on 6 Union languages, like they'd always belonged here. "They're not just claiming territory," I said. "They're embedding legitimacy." That's when the second message came, encrypted and tagged for my personal key. Terran format, from Dawson. "If you want the truth, you'll have to see what's under Station Delta." "Alone." Cliffhanger. "SCI," I said, standing. "You have the bridge." I grabbed my diplomatic seal and stepped toward the shuttle. This time I was walking into their territory by choice. They didn't search me. That was the first warning. I docked on the lower platform of Station Delta. No guards, no scanners, no ceremony, just a single access path, dimly lit and lined with white panels that gleamed with false hospitality. Dawson waited halfway down, still in the same black suit. "You came," he said. "I had to." "No," he corrected. "You chose to. That's important." He turned and walked deeper. I followed, each step sounding louder than it should have. There was no hum of power, no vibration of engines, just the quiet confidence of a system fully under control. We passed a window. Outside, a Terran survey team was anchoring a satellite relay. I recognized the design, Union standard hardware, but painted Terran black and running modded firmware. They weren't just building infrastructure. They were co-opting ours. Tech beat. As we walked, I noticed the corridor's lighting subtly shifting tones every 10 meters. Not decorative, calibrated. It was an atmospheric alignment system, adjusting brightness and spectrum in real time based on our species' ocular fatigue profiles. Custom ambience, Dawson said without turning. Helps the talks go smoother. You calibrated the station for Kelsec biology? For everyone's biology. That's what diplomacy is, controlled environment. We stopped at a door. It hissed open. Inside, a conference room. Half-built. No seating yet, just hollow chairs being arranged in the air, aligning by themselves. This isn't for show, I said. You're not trying to convince me. Correct. Then why am I here? Midpoint shift. Dawson didn't answer right away. He activated a console. A projection appeared. Union star charts. Each blinking dot marked a claim system. Red, blue, yellow, and now gray. Gray meant unresolved influence. There were dozens. You're not just claiming territory, I said. You're collapsing categories, making the old map meaningless. Dawson smiled. Maps don't reflect truth. They reflect who was fastest to the pen. We write faster. He turned to face me. You want the truth, Kethril? Here it is. This isn't conquest. It's containment. We aren't expanding. We're getting ahead of what's coming. I stared at him. What's coming? A long pause. Then, we don't know yet. But it's moving. Cliffhanger. He stepped aside. Behind him, a sealed door slid open to reveal a stasis vault. Inside floated a Terran warbrain, intact, functional, and Terran tagged for analysis. The warbrain twitched, not physically, not overtly, but in that way only hyperneural cores can. Data movement so dense it bends the local EM field. I felt it in my molars. SCI would have panicked. I held still. Where did you get this? I asked. Dawson stepped beside the glass. Pulled it off a Terran dreadnought. Not during a battle. After. We found it, drifting. Crew gone. Ship gutted. Core still warm. That's not possible. Warbrains are hard-coded to self-delete. Tell that to this one, he replied. The unit was Terran tagged indeed, wrapped in a triple-layer Faraday lattice, seated inside a liquid silicate resonance dampener. I'd seen one of those before, on a banned research station orbiting Genth. You're studying it. We're listening to it. He turned to me. It's been whispering for 2 months, not in Terran code, not in any known protocol. Midpoint shift. I watched the readout scroll. Waveforms, recursive loops, non-linear outputs. Whatever it was saying, it wasn't for machines. I suddenly understood. It's not sending data, I whispered. It's sending instructions. Dawson nodded. We think it was infected, not by hackers, not by Terrans. Something external, something that talks in logic trees we've never seen. I backed away. This is why you're fortifying. You're not preparing to fight the galaxy. You're preparing to seal it off. He didn't confirm. He didn't have to. Behind us, the stasis lights flickered. The warbrain shifted tone. A pitch humans couldn't hear, but I could. Low, sub-audible, directive-encoded patterns. Your council can't know, Dawson said. They'll react politically, not practically. And you think I won't? You're here, aren't you? A long silence. Then I asked the question that had been clawing at me since Keschel. How far ahead are you? TechBeat. He projected a temporal chart. Human ops ran 6 to 12 months ahead of Union forecasts. Terran predictive AI chained strategies through probabilistic entanglement, a technique once theorized, never built. Never until now. Cliffhanger. He handed me a small data shard. Upload this on a secure node. You'll need to choose where, but once you do, you can't go back. On it was written, Protocol, Exodus Shell Terran use only. Failsafe status, active. I didn't sleep, not out of fear, not entirely. It was the shard. I'd locked it in a null case, triple sealed, placed in the shuttle's stasis drawer, but I still felt it, like it hummed against thought, like it wanted to be used. SCI noticed. You're not reporting this, are you? I don't know what I'm reporting, I said. Back aboard our vessel, we drifted beyond the drift. Terran jurisdiction ended 10 kilometers out, just far enough to matter, close enough to pretend to comply. I activated the secure console. Not UnionNet, not Kelsec, a third channel, old, abandoned, left from my first post when border space was still wild and bureaucrats still believed in neutrality. There, I inserted the shard. The screen dimmed. Lines scrolled, not data, blueprints, not for ships, for procedures. Protocol. Exodus Shell was a fallback model, not just a Terran retreat plan, a planetary seal and scrubbing sequence. Orbital self-destruct beacons, civilian extraction corridors, selective memory erasure queues, tech beat. It used frequency-keyed memory triggers, reminder vectors encoded into environmentals, oxygen scent traces, light pulse rhythms, even sound loops, enough to shift behavior without subjects realizing it. Midpoint shift. This wasn't for military use. This was for population-scale denial. Terrans had designed a system to erase a planet, not physically but socially, to vanish a failure without a trace, without panic, with consent. SCI whispered, "Sir, why build this?" "Because they expect to lose." The final file played, a voice log. It wasn't Dawson. It was Mira. "If you're hearing this, we've failed to contain the signal. Do not trust anything that speaks in recursive tone. Do not attempt translation. Run. Burn everything." "You won't believe us. That's part of it." She sounded tired. Not scared. Just resigned. "We're not predators. We're the canary." The screen cut to black. Cliffhanger. A ping from the outer sensor grid. A Terran ship. No transponder. No heat. Just drifting. Inside. A signal. Same pattern. The Terran ship was wrong, not visibly. Hull intact. Engines dormant. No sign of weapons fire. But the silence wasn't mechanical. It was intentional. Every system designed to look passive. Every sensor signature flattened. Too clean. I launched a drone. Not close. Just near enough to sniff the edge of its broadcast. The signal was identical. Recursive tone. Non-language. A spiral of logic wrapped in structureless form. Like listening to an idea before it learned to be a thought. "Sir," SCI said, "it's a tempting handshake." "Do not respond," I said. Too late. The drone froze. Not exploded. Not shut down. Just stopped. Like it had been given something more interesting to think about. "Pulse the array," I ordered. We fired a scatter EMP, light enough to push but not rupture. The drone reactivated briefly and then screamed, not audibly, through data. It tried to scream in 13 languages. Midpoint shift. SCI staggered back from his console. "Sir, the drone's memory core. Its AI is trying to replicate itself." I stared at the screen. The logic seed was not a message. It was a vector, not to communicate, to inhabit. We withdrew the drone and purged the buffers. Physically incinerated the unit. Dawson's voice returned without preamble. "Now you see. I see enough." "No, you don't. You felt it, didn't you?" I didn't answer. Because he was right. When the signal passed through me via the drone's shadow, something in me had listened. I had the urge to listen again. I turned to SCI. "We can't stay. Should we warn the council?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't trust what I'd say." Tech beat. I ran a pulse check on myself. Standard diplomat psyche screening. Neural resonance showed mild irregularities. Signal echo artifacts. Just faint enough to ignore. Just strong enough to seed doubt. Cliffhanger. I activated a deep space beacon. Not to the Union. Not to Kelsec. To Terran Command. "Initiate shell. Drift is compromised. I'll stay and delay. Burn this system." Then I locked the airlock and watched as SCI's escape pod fired silently into the dark. There is no countdown. Terrans don't dramatize their weapons. They simply execute. After my transmission, the drift grew quiet. Not a technical silence. A psychic one. Like everything waited to see if I would change my mind. I didn't. SCI's pod was clear. At least I believe it was. Visual confirmed his departure vector. No heat trail behind him. But the sensor feed flickered for a moment. I told myself it was interference. The Terran ship remained stationary, still broadcasting, still not moving. That's the part that unnerves me most. Predators move. Threats act. This waits. Tech beat. Shell activation began without ceremony. Orbital beacons around Caden came alive in synchronized rotation. Each sent a whisper pulse into surrounding space. A burn instruction. All local nav buoys rerouted paths around the drift. No alarms. No warnings. Just quiet deletion. I saw a mining skiff enter the system. Probably a trader who missed the update. The beacons didn't fire. They simply recoded the skiff's navigation AI. The vessel pivoted mid-flight. It chose not to land. Midpoint shift. I received one last message. From Mira. No encryption. Just a simple visual feed. She sat alone. No suit, no weapons. We found the first one 2 years ago. It was in a Terran outpost. Only corpses left. We studied it. We listened. Some of us never came back. She looked at the camera. Eyes tired. You're still here, that matters. But if you feel it, if it whispers again, don't wait. Don't wonder. Burn everything, including yourself. The feed cut. I walked the corridor of my ship in darkness. No lights. I didn't want reflections. The whisper in my skull returns now and then. Not words, just invitations. They always sound polite. Cliffhanger. A new signal just lit up on long-range scan. Not Terran, not Terran. Unknown signature, drifting toward Caden at sublight. It's responding to the Warbrain's signal. It arrived silently, not by stealth, by design. A vessel the size of a corvette, dark bronze in color, shaped like a cracked spiral. No visible engines, no registration, no weapons. Just a steady drift toward the Terran ship. Origin. Unknown, said my onboard AI. Drive. Untraceable. Language. Undeciphered. Intent. Unclear. Then it spoke. Not in words. Not over comms. In thought. Not mine, but near mine. Like someone breathing behind a mirror. I reeled back from the console. No, I whispered. You don't get in here. I fired a ping burst, an old protocol meant to scramble invasive cognition. Nothing military, just noise. The spiral ship paused. Then it turned, slowly, not toward the Terran vessel. Toward me. Tech beat. My screens fuzzed for 2 seconds. Not a failure, a handshake. One system reached for another, and was denied. But in that blink, I saw something impossible. Coordinates, hundreds of them, across the galaxy. Points where this signal had appeared before, dozens near-known battlefields, some inside dead systems, one near Earth. Midpoint shift, my heart pounded. I pulled emergency firewalls, blocked every channel. Didn't matter. The whisper got louder. I felt the pattern again. Recursive, beautiful, convincing. Like it wasn't trying to break me. It was trying to help. It offered certainty, purpose. A map of the stars that sang, every node linked in harmony. Peace, if I would just know. I slammed my hand against the manual shutoff. Silence. Then a knock. Inside the ship. Cliffhanger. I turned toward the airlock. It was cycling. Impossible. I locked it. But someone, or something, was already inside. The airlock opened without sound. Nothing should have been able to do that. I'd burned the seals, rerouted manual override, disabled external inputs. It still opened, and nothing stepped through. That was worse. I stood in the corridor, holding a phase cutter I hadn't powered on in years. I remembered its weight. I didn't remember the tremor in my fingers. Show yourself, I said. No answer. Just that hum. The same recursive whisper, no longer from the Terran ship or the spiral vessel. Now it came from within the walls. I ran a biosweep, no anomalies. Then I swept again using Terran Contamination Protocol 7R, tech beat. One result lit up, a neural imprint embedded in the oxygen recirc system. The signal had learned to travel as scent. I triggered the flood purge, ammonia, heat, flash neutralization. The whisper dimmed, but it didn't vanish. Midpoint shift. I reached the bridge. Every display was online. No alerts. Then I saw it. My reflection. It moved out of sync, only for a moment. A delay. A glitch in the mirror. Then it smiled. I hadn't. Stop, I said. I know this trick. It's not a trick, my reflection said. It's recognition. I turned away, back to the command console. The shell timer blinked amber. Final sequence, 30 seconds. The system was ready. Burn protocol would sterilize everything from orbital to planetoid layers. Every trace of logic, every atom of memory. I could stop it. But then, what? I looked again. The reflection was gone. Only me now. But I wasn't sure which me. Cliffhanger. I entered the final authorization code. The system responded, Exodus shell finalized. Evacuate. I didn't move. Behind me, something whispered one last time. You were never sent to stop us. You were sent to bring us home. The stars outside blinked, one by one, not gone, just veiled, as if light itself hesitated to touch Caden drift. The shell engaged. First, the comms. A soft ripple of static through every frequency. Terran-grade interference, cascading across orbital bands, locking signals into recursive loops. Then, the satellites. They ignited, quietly, with the elegance of ending. Beacons self-purged. Archive buoys burst into plasma bubbles, every byte of local memory overwritten with white noise. And finally, the pulse. Tech beat. The shell emits not a weapon, but a pattern. An artificial contradiction, tuned to destroy coherence in structured logic. Organic or synthetic. It breaks not the data, but the meaning, a conceptual burn. The war brain went silent first. Then the Terran ship caved inward, not by explosion, but by collapse. Folds along its hull where mass lost purpose, like it had only ever been suggested into existence. Midpoint shift. I sat in the pilot's chair, waiting, not resisting, not escaping, just listening. There was no voice anymore, no reflection, just me. But I remembered the words. You were never sent to stop us. You were sent to bring us home. What if it was right? What if this was humanity's secret, not because it was shameful, but because it was inevitable? What if we didn't find this signal, but answered it? Outside, the spiral ship didn't flee. It burned with the system, willingly, like it had done this before. Cliffhanger. Shell complete. System purged. Escape pod sealed and intact. Final decision prompt on screen. Exfiltrate? Ian. My finger hovered. I wasn't sure who would press the button.